Hi, I'm Akshay Ghulati, co-founder of Shiprocket.
I want to start by understanding the history of Shiprocket. What was uh, and I know it's gone through a fairly long journey full of pivots and, it's been an amazing ride. So I'd love to help our listeners learn about the journey first.
Absolutely, Akshay, and this is going to get confusing with two Akshys on the call, but thank you for having me here today. Really happy, Shiprocket has been, a passion project. It started off as, an idea, and it's been 12 years in the making now. So always very, very happy to talk about it. We started in 2012. So my co-founder Sahil had moved from the US, and he had a very clear vision at that time. He wanted to build Shopify in India. The mission was that we wanted to democratize e-commerce for the SMEs in India. It was clear that, large corporates, brands, they had the capability to, spend lakhs of rupees on building websites. A lot of times these websites were vanity websites. There was not a lot of, e-commerce happening. So when I say vanity, I mean brand websites. But the cost was so prohibitively high that SMEs really couldn't access it. So the only option they had was to go to large marketplaces. Direct to consumer commerce really wasn't accessible. And he came to India from the US in 2012 to set up a company called CartRocket. That's how we started, with the vision of helping SMEs go online. It was an interesting first few years because we were what we call the shop.
Funds? Like,
Yes.
oh,
So the Sahil, Gautam, and Vishesh kind of was part of the first phase of this journey. We raised funds. We raised seed funding from 500 ventures, 500 startups. Sorry, we raised Series A funding from Nirvana Capital. It was a successful venture, CartRocket. So by no stretch of the imagination, was it a failure? We got product market fit. At one point, we were much larger than even Shopify in India. And,
wow.
at that time in India, everyone wanted a global counterpart or a global example of what you were building. So we used to call ourselves the Shopify of India, albeit built for India, because it was unlike Shopify, which was a plug and play solution. Now they have Shopify Gold, where it's an assisted solution as well, which is a little bit more expensive. But CartRocket was, an assisted solution. We didn't expect SMEs in India to go online and be able to create a website on their own using the software. That's why it did well. One of the things that we realized during that journey
Well,
was that
give me some idea of, you're saying it was bigger than Shopify in India. Which year was that?
so this would have been around 2014-15 when we raised our
Okay.
Series A in 2014. We had about 1,700 websites live on CartRocket and Shopify at that point, and I please don't correct me for accuracy, but would have been a lot smaller than us. I think
Hmm.
over the journey 2014 onwards, Shopify started catching up. They started focusing on India. And one of the things that we realized was that, while it was all well and good to say that
That
we wanted to take,
the
go
Series
on.
A, it was like a 10 million fundraise. So in the Series A pitch to investors was to very much scale up as Shopify of India.
Absolutely. That was,
Okay.
so again, our vision all the way till 2016 was very much about, so when we say Shopify of India, we called ourselves the Shopify of India, but the idea was about taking SMEs online and building Shopify for India, right? Which was
Got it.
building an ecosystem parallel to the large marketplaces that would help. So at that point, the other challenge, Akshay, that SMEs are facing is a lot of them weren't successful on places like Amazon and Flipkart because they didn't have the resources or the inventory. Because a lot of the large marketplaces wanted huge amounts of inventory because if a SKU starts selling, they don't want it to stock out. And SMEs just didn't have the capability to provide that. So it was very important to create an alternative demand channel. Social commerce, which is Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram commerce, wasn't as big back then. Though, if anyone goes back and looks at discussions or interviews that Lyle made during that period, social commerce was a very important theme that we were working on. So while the shopping cart rocket was an important front end that we had, the idea was to empower all disaggregated commerce, right? Anything that was not happening through a marketplace, we wanted to create the entire infrastructure to be able to do it. Obviously, with CartRocket being our lead product there. And
Okay.
one of the things we realized very early on is, again, despite whatever we said, a lot of the websites that were coming onto CartRocket were also vanity websites because people weren't getting orders. It was as simple as that, is that a website used to go live. There, a lot of time, effort was spent in building a catalog, taking these brands online, and then they just didn't have the marketing capability to be able to generate orders. Direct to consumer commerce, D2C, the way we know it today, didn't exist in 2014. I don't even think the term in India was widely used. In the US, people like Shopify platforms had made D2C commerce pretty accessible, but in India, people hadn't heard of it. So essentially, one of the things that we realized during our journey is that demand generation was critical. And that led to the second phase of our journey. And that's when I joined the team in 2016 to build a venture called Craftly, where we were building a open social commerce marketplace. Idea was any SME who had stock in their store or in their home could literally take a smartphone, click a picture, and go online. And we were trying to build a marketplace where a lot of people who were not selling online, we were going to be able to bring them online. People at local craft fairs. In India, we call them flea markets, night bazaars. That was the kind of inventory we wanted to make accessible across the nation, not just in the local catchment area that was there. And
So
that
why were
unfortunately was
you
a
why were you
sorry.
hired to build Craftly? What was your background?
So I was at Amazon actually before this. I was in Amazon. I'd done a bunch of different roles in the UK. One of them being running the marketplace for Pan Europe. And but my main experience was on the B2C side, was on the demand side because I was a product manager there in software video games. I had kind of built I had not actually built, but I had run the launch of the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox One, which was the biggest thing to happen in video games for over a
Okay.
decade when I was there. So I loved what I was doing, but I always had this vision that I want to come back to India and I want to do something on my own. And Craftly, again, it's a passion project. Even today, if you ask me, at some point, I want to get back to doing that. And maybe life is coming full circle and we'll talk about it a little later because we see shoots of that back in our business today. But the idea was about, taking people online who didn't, again, very similar to 2012 with Cart Rocket. There we were talking about brands. Now we were talking about pure SMEs, entrepreneurs, a weaver in Banaras, a potter in Andhra Pradesh. Literally that is the kind of inventory we were able to take live. But that
And
unfortunately was
Craftly,
a very ill-fated experiment.
so basically, Craftly was like the Etsy of India. Etsy is a e-commerce site in the US, which has a similar approach of allowing uh, niche art and craft kind of entrepreneurs to sell online easily. So this was something similar.
Absolutely. Hence the name also, as you can see, was very inspired by Etsy. So I actually, when I came back to India in 2016, I actually met Sahil in 2015 on a brief visit here. And I was actually trying to raise money for a startup that I wanted to do, which I wanted to do was build the Etsy of India. That's what I used to tell people. So very familiar. I was very familiar with Etsy. That's what I wanted to do. And during the course of that journey, a batchmate of mine from Harvard was just investing in Cart Rocket. And a lot of what, I was telling him about what I wanted to do. And he was helping with introductions with VCs as well as entrepreneurs. And he told me, okay, there's this guy from the same high school as you. He keeps on saying many of the same things. Maybe I should connect and, see what's happening in the space here. And as fate would have it, Sahil and I met for 30 minutes. And then the rest, as they say, is history. 3 months later, I was sitting at the Cart Rocket office in New Delhi. And we went through that journey together. And I think one of the big mistakes is that we did
Has
everything so quickly.
Okay. Has anyone so far built the Etsy of India? Is Misho something similar?
No, not at all. Not at
Okay.
least the way Etsy was when Etsy started as well. I
Okay.
think the Etsy's concept of bringing unique products, handcrafted products, a lot of people tried. Craftly was one of us. There was a company called Craftsvilla. Many people tried with that concept. And I think back then, and even to an extent today, the market just isn't there online because a lot of these purchases, people love the touch and feel, the experience of
Right.
buying these products. So I think it's today, I think it's an online plus offline. It's an omni-channel play. Back then, it was probably more purely offline. The idea of people going to a night bazaar or a flea market was the experience, not just about finding these products there. Misho, I think I wouldn't say it's the Etsy of India because while they had a similar concept around social commerce, I think the kind of inventory that's there is very akin to a large marketplace, right? And that's where eventually Craftly evolved to. So we started off with this vision. Our tagline was uniquely yours because we wanted to have unique products on the website. And eventually we became the same as any marketplace where we had a lot of sunglasses, a lot of products, like USB fans, all these gimmicky products out there. There was nothing unique about it anymore. And it was a conscious decision that we took within, I think, 12 to 15 months of doing Craftly, that this is not what we started out to build. We've created something very, very different. And it's more importantly, it's something we don't believe in. While the platform was doing reasonably well, it was scaling rapidly. It
What
was
kind of
a lot of
GMV?
cash.
Okay.
So I don't remember the GMV number now, but we crossed over 100,000 orders a month at our peak.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So it was not, it was, while it was not lighting the world on fire, it was significant. And it was still something that, we did it for about 15 months. I literally risked my career at Amazon to come and do the startup. In 15 months, I was the one who went and told my co-founder Sahil, we've created a beast that, that we didn't want to create. This is not what we started out thinking. Let's rethink what we're doing, because all the value props that we had in mind when we pitched to investors, when we started this, actually maybe it's 7 out of the 10 value propositions that we have don't exist anymore. And we've built something that is going to be a cash guzzling machine, is going to compete with the likes of the large marketplaces. Is this really something we want to do? And our DNA as entrepreneurs is very simple. If we ourselves can't see the value that we are creating in our customers' lives, if our customer can easily switch between a Craftly or a Paytm Mall or a ShopClose or a Vunik at the time, then we didn't really see the value long term, because in e-commerce, if you don't have repeat customers, and customer loyalty anyways in India tends to be low because of price discounting, if you don't have the repeat, you're never going to build a sustainable business model. And if you just want to keep on raising money, acquiring customers, and then hoping that at some point something changes, we just are those kind of people. So we took the hard call, and we actually did a hard shot of Craftly. And during that time, CartRocket again had scaled, had reached a decent size, but was not growing.
When was this that you shut Craftly?
So this is 2017. So I came back Feb 2016, 2017 November. Craftly shut down. CartRocket itself, was the main engine of the business till then, but it wasn't growing as quickly as we wanted. To a large extent, because Shopify figured out.
Was it doing?
So we were at about 12 million ARR at CartRocket, which is a decent revenue in India, especially at that time.
Yes.
But the big thing is Shopify had figured out the India game by then, and they had a better platform than us. They had better technology than us, and we were playing catch up. And at that point, I think Sahil, Gautam, Vishesh, and I got into a room, and we just said, what are we doing? I think it was a point where I would say it was the lowest point of the entire journey of the platform, Bigfoot Retail Solutions, which is our company, because everything that we'd done over 4 to 5 years, it just seemed as if, the value proposition had gone away. But the fact that we kind of went into a period of introspection for 3 months was really important, because we came out with Shiprocket at the end of it. Shiprocket was not something new. It was not a pivot. It was not something that we built. Shiprocket was the engine that had powered CartRocket and Craftly for the last 5 years. It started with CartRocket. The big value proposition CartRocket had versus a Shopify or any other website builder was that we give you the entire fulfillment inbuilt into the system, which nobody else was doing, which for an SME was brilliant. And that's what our customers used to say, that, your front end sucks. Your technology is not that great for the front end, but we love the fact that it's a one-stop shop. You take care of everything. I don't have to now work with a 3PL courier company to deliver my products. If the product doesn't get delivered, I call you, you take the ownership. So we love that concept. That 3 months of introspection that we did between CartRocket, Craftly, just made us realize that, we were trying to build something for which the customer pull wasn't there. And there was this huge platform that we'd built, which was pretty much 80% of the time and money we'd invested over many years, was building the whole CartRocket Craftly backend. And people loved it. But because we didn't want to build a boring, back-end infrastructure company, we never really focused on it. And is that really smart entrepreneurship? And I think at the end of the day, that was a huge learning experience for us. We pretty much shut all our front-end platforms, which were CartRocket and Craftly, down, and repivoted to Shiprocket. And I think our investors played a huge role in that journey for us, Akshay. That I remember one of our earliest investors from Nirvana Capital told us, while we were going through this introspection, that which one of your customers will be really unhappy if you shut down? And if the answer is nobody, then you might as well return whatever money you've raised and go home. But if there are customers that, would be really unhappy, or whose business wouldn't survive because you aren't there, then figure out what you're doing for them and just double down on it, because it doesn't matter how big it is. No one thinks of building a unicorn or $1 billion company. At that time, you just want to solve a problem when you start out. And I think that's the right way to do it. Because I think the big mistake we made with the Craftly was that we tried to build for valuation and tried to build for a business that we thought would scale, rather than we were solving a problem, but a problem that did not need to be solved at the time, because a lot of our sellers just didn't want to go online. We were trying to create the market there, and it's a long, arduous journey to do that. So I think Shiprocket happened to us at the right time. And 2017, we pivoted, shut down both the other platforms, wrote away about 90% of our revenue, Akshay. So we went from that 12 million ARR from to like a $1 or $2 million company, and just started rebuilding from scratch. And the good part is the tech and the platform was there, and a lot of our people stayed with us. We still have there are people in the company who are much older than me, and that's one of the things that has kind of been our testament to what we're building, is that our attrition rate is much lower than what other people experience, because we're building a company in a very, very different way. We're not building a capital guzzling startup. We're actually building what we like to call a proper company, which is hopefully going to outlast the founders as well.
Okay. Let me pause here at this point of 2017. I want to ask a few questions pre 2017. So you had raised one roughly 10 million Series A around 14. After that, did you raise more funds? Did Shiprocket raise more funds?
So actually 2016, when I joined, was coinciding with the point where Bertelsmann invested in us as part of our Series B. And that's the point I joined, because that's when Sahil and the team had more capital, and we wanted to do something different. I was thinking about Etsy, Sahil was thinking about social commerce, and our minds had converged at that point that why don't we just do this together? And I think 2016 we raised our Series B. Series B, I believe, was about $8 million. Again, okay. I am very fuzzy with numbers sometimes. Sahil is the money man. He raises the money, I spend the money. That's kind of the deal we have. But yeah, I think it was an $8 million round we did at that point. Bertelsmann led that round. And to come 2000, I think 17, 18, we unfortunately had to do a bridge. So we extended our Series B because we had run out of some of that capital with Craftly along the way. And we kind of recapitalized the company. At no point, did we think of, shutting down the company and building something again. We continued with our investors. And I think that's been one of the big things that has differentiated us from a lot of other startups out there, is that our investors have been out with us since 2012. Even to this date, some of the VCs that we have, their funds have shut down, but they've still not sold their stock holding in our company, and have kind of just, repatriated the equity to the individuals because they love the journey. And unfortunately, the first 4 to 5 years for them was all about finding product market fit.
Wow, amazing. So, how did the logistics part of it get built up? So what you're saying is that from very early days, one key difference between a Shopify and a CartRocket was that CartRocket also handled fulfillment. How was that built up? Like, because today most of the logistic companies are tech savvy and they can offer you API integration and stuff like that. But I'm sure in 2012, none of that ability to connect through APIs would have existed. So how was that built out, the fulfillment engine behind CartRocket?
You hit the nail on the head, actually. So you know a lot about how the logistic industry works in India. Actually, forget APIs. When you think about 2012, 13, most 3PL or logistics companies did not even want to give contracts to SMEs. So if you didn't have this massive billing, you could not get a contract. You had to work on a prepaid model. And even on a prepaid model, the rates were usually 2 to 3 times higher than the contracted rate. So you're talking about a period where it was not about ease of doing business. It was about the access just wasn't there. And I think Shiprocket was one of the first platforms, and I give a lot of credit to my co-founder Gautam here, because he was the guy who was kind of working on what we considered at that point was the boring part of the business. Who knew that 5 years later it would become the business by itself? And he kind of built this entire backend infrastructure out. Working, he used to go for meetings with all the 3PL companies, explaining to them what we're trying to do. And while some of them may not even have believed in what we were doing, they just, it's a lot about the relationship. They believed that they could trust us. And if we were going to help them tap this SME demand, why not? And that's how it started. Shiprocket got an aggregator contract with these 3PLs. We started giving, we started out with a value proposition.
Early conversions?
So
Like which
delivery,
companies
Blue
were?
Dot,
Okay. Okay. Mm,
very
okay.
similar to what we
And
have today,
mm,
and I think, sorry, I'll just add that it's because they were the early adopters of this wave, which is why probably they're now the behemoths of the courier industry here.
mm, amazing. And how did the integration work? Because they wouldn't have been, I mean, they would have been using a lot of manual processes. So how did Shiprocket offer that seamless integration to the customers? That the moment
So it
somebody
was
orders
actually,
on
it was
Cartrocket, it is like the logistics is handled.
So the thing is, all of these courier companies had the APIs. They just didn't have they were just not easy to be able to access, right? Because with the large customers like the Amazons, a lot of the new age courier companies in India got built on the back of demand from Amazon and Flipkart. So the APIs were there. You just needed a team of developers to be able to build that out. And SMEs in India were not going to be able to do it. So our value add was obviously being able to, write into these platforms. We were able to pull the orders from any marketplace. People were able to bulk upload the orders, manually add orders, and then one click ship it using any of the providers they want. So that was like we are and continue to be what we call a middleware, right? Connecting the SMEs to the couriers, and now not just the couriers, because we're trying to do a lot more than logistics, pretty much to any end provider out there in a single platform. So while I think the value prop in the initial days was access was the biggest thing that we were giving, better prices, or unit economics was the second thing we were giving, and then the technology, right? The integration was the third thing that we're giving. Like you rightly said, a lot of that has been solved today. So our value proposition over time has also changed, where it's not just about the access, because every 3PL today is focusing on the SME market in a very big way because it's evolved over the last 10 years. So it's a lot about transparency, technology, and something as simple as an API integration today is taken for granted. Today, it's a lot more than that. A lot of the value add that we bring through data and analytics. But that's kind of how we built out. We had a lot of early supporters with platforms like Delivery and Blue Dart because they realized that this is something that's going to be big. And they were focusing on the likes of Amazon and Flipkart. They were not focusing on the SME D2C space. So they liked the fact that Shiprocket was there to kind of, aggregate all of this demand and act like another large demand pool for them, which they were structured to cater to rather than individual SMEs.
Okay, understood. What does the logistics chain look like once I click on buy and I make the payment on a website? What are the steps after that? There must be like microservices, and you would probably be orchestrating that whole chain of microservices. Just talk to me about the whole chain and what all Shiprocket does.
Well, absolutely. So let me walk you through one big difference actually is because what you said right now, which is once I click buy, what happens? That was actually Shiprocket from 2 years ago, from 2022. We used to call ourselves a post-order e-commerce enablement platform, and we've removed the word post-order now. So it's not just about after you click the buy button. It's even at the time of clicking the buy button, and I'll explain to you what we mean by that. So when you go on a website, right, xyz.com, or let's even say mamaearth.com to buy a product, even before you click the buy button, usually there's below the buy button, there's an area where it tells you when your product will be delivered. Traditionally, websites used to say product will be delivered in 5 to 7 business days. Today, Shiprocket, through our
And in
technology,
fact, they won't
we
even say
power
delivered; they will say
EDD.
shipped. Ah,
If the way back it was shipped, and today we actually power something called EDD, which is estimated date of delivery, where the websites are able to pull in the actual date of delivery. So a customer doesn't see X to Y business days; they see receive your order by this date if you order in the next how many hours or minutes. Much like an Amazon offers for its customers because it controls the entire supply chain. The other thing we have is you also have the ability to be able to check out with Shiprocket. So if you've bought with Shiprocket, any Shiprocket partner website in the past, you can check out with Shiprocket. You have to log in once and all your details come pre-filled from the addresses that you ship to your payment details. And you're able to, one click checkout with UPI if you have that enabled. Otherwise, you go with one of our partners, BillDesk, Razorpay, etc., to be able to click. So that, the word post order. So we actually start playing a role in the customer's journey even before they click the buy button now. And that's how we've evolved as a platform, because it's not just the logistics that we're solving for, it's the entire customer experience. And that's been a huge part of our journey post-COVID. So, so let's assume that, you see the EDD, you check out with Shiprocket, or even if you check out with any other native checkout, doesn't matter. Once the order is successful, If the order has been placed on your website or if the order has been placed on an Amazon or a Flipkart, we actually pull the orders on our platform. So the seller at their end immediately see all the orders out there. If the order has come through an unstructured channel to a seller, they have the ability to upload the order either through an API or through a manual upload. Literally, create an order on our platform. So either way, your orders automatically flow through on the Shiprocket dashboard, or as a seller, they upload the order manually. And then the moment the order comes there, the seller sees all the shipping options and the times of delivery available. We don't force them to use one versus the other. They have all the carriers. They can choose which carrier they want. And at the end of the day, depending on the price and the SLA, they choose the carrier. Again, click a button, the airway bill and the label prints out. And the pickup with the 3PL is generated automatically. Usually either same day or next day, the pickup happens with the courier from the seller's warehouse and the delivery to the customer starts. And throughout this journey, the customer is kept informed at any point if there is a delay. If, for example, there are a lot of handovers that happen because most courier companies follow a hub and spoke model in India. So if there's a miss in the handover happening or if there's a delay in the shipment getting there, we make sure that customers know so as to reduce the anxiety about, when an order is going to come. And the other part of the journey is that especially for cash on delivery orders, this communication is really important because if you don't communicate to a customer that the order is, maybe it's going to be there a day earlier or a day later, you'll find a lot of people, they just go and they buy the order they may place multiple orders on COD and the first one that comes, they keep and the other one they return. And for our merchants, that's a huge loss because they've incurred the shipping cost, but at the same time, they don't convert on the sale and the chances of the product getting damaged in transit as well. So, Shiprocket is part of that journey with the customer. It's a lot of times, sometimes our customers give us feedback saying that, why do I need to know every time my parcel breathes? It feels like Shiprocket is like standing over a hawk over the parcel. And that's one of the value adds that we have. Is to make sure that, optimizing for that delivery experience. Once the order is delivered to the customer, we power the entire returns as well if they want to return the order. The NPS for our sellers, we help them collect that as well because not a lot of them will have NPS tools inbuilt into their platforms. And that's important because they want to understand what customers are thinking about the product. We help power repeat purchases through our CRM platform. So end to end, we've gone from a logistics aggregation platform, which is very simply what we were in 2017, to being what we call ourselves as an e-commerce enablement platform today. We want to help power the entire customer experience, not just the supply chain. That is the problem that we focus on and solved and continue to solve. But today, with direct-to-consumer commerce evolving, there are a lot more problems that we're trying to solve, again, along that journey from the buy button to the order being delivered.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to zoom in to some of the things that you've spoken about.
Yes.
So when you're saying automatically the order flows into the Shiprocket dashboard, so that is through like a Shopify integration and also like a Amazon integration as well?
Yes. So we integrate with all the platforms out there, Amazon, Flipkart, Shopify. We pull in orders like WooCommerce, we pull in orders directly onto our platform. The orders that the seller wants to ship, they can choose whichever orders they want to ship because a lot of the orders, for example, we don't pull in FBA orders because those are shipped directly from Amazon. But from every channel that the seller has to literally just go click, put in the user credentials, and the orders automatically pull into the Shiprocket platform.
Okay. Now, when the seller is choosing, there are multiple, like there's first mile, last mile, etc. So they choose a single service provider throughout, or do they also receive like a bundled offering, like first mile here and last mile through another vendor, or how does that happen?
So for Shiprocket, it's actually a single offering that we offer from the pickup to the delivery because in India, again, like I said, with the handovers happening, there's not much of a value add to want to disaggregate entire parts of the supply chain. Though, as I see this, things are changing now. Meesho was one of the big platforms that's announced their own courier network now that they're building out. And I think the space in India will also evolve. That's actually direct end-to-end delivery for the customer from the seller. So it's exactly what you said, right? A different partner doing the first mile, someone doing the mid-mile, the trucking or the air freight, and then the last mile being done by a different provider. We actually offer that exact model for cross-border, which is India to US, UK, GCC, Europe, and Canada, because there the value add is significant enough to want to break these parts of it down because the express players there are at a very, very high price point. So if you want to create value for the seller, there's enough um, um, bandwidth in the supply chain to want to disaggregate all of that. So on cross border, we're actually able to offer almost 30 to 40% cheaper prices than the express players because we do this. On the domestic side today, we don't do it to a large extent. So I'll tell you where we do offer this. Is we have a business called Shiprocket Fulfillment. We store a lot of products from our sellers at 2 or 3 key locations across India so that we're able to do same day, next day deliveries for them. And in this part of the business, we would disaggregate the service where we would use a line haul provider, for example, to get the product from a warehouse in Patauti to Gurgaon, and then use bikers to be able to deliver them to the end customers. But today, I think the key behind cheaper and more efficient logistics is to be able to use the infrastructure that's already there. And the courier companies have done a fantastic job in optimizing this infrastructure. Our key goal is, one of the metrics that we track within the business is the miles traveled per packet. So one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we can store goods closer to customers to reduce that miles tracked per packet. It creates cheaper logistics and as well as better for the environment. So it's something that as a goal we are aspiring towards, and that at some point will definitely lead to some disaggregation of the supply chain. But I think today the 3PLs do a fantastic job.
So fulfilled by Shiprocket is like fulfilled by Amazon equivalent, like faster delivery,
Absolutely.
same day, next day, stuff like that. Okay, interesting, very interesting. Um, I want to zoom in on more things that you were speaking about. So you spoke of checkout with Shiprocket. How does that work? And is it that is it like a Google, like I can log in using my Gmail into any website? Is it something similar to that?
Absolutely. So it's basically you can log in using Shiprocket using your user credentials, and basically, obviously, you sign up. You the first time you want to do it, you have to give us permission to be able to use your data. We don't do it on the fly, so you have to be able to give us that permission. And once you do it, we basically have all the addresses that you have ever entered in on any website. If the parcel has been delivered with Shiprocket, and in a lot of cases today, that is the case because we are one of the largest logistics providers for D2C. So all you need to do is literally you log in using Shiprocket. Your address is pre-filled into the platform. If want to ship to a different address you've used before, you can change that easily, and you can literally check out the entire 2-3 page process that it takes to enter the address goes away. Also, the fact is with the address we've successfully delivered there before, so we're able to ensure that the RTO or the non-delivery is minimized because, for example, if you entered in an address earlier and our delivery provider enriched that address with certain particular details, which made it easier for them to find the location. For example, behind XYZ tea stall, that actually gets added to your profile. So the next time someone goes to deliver, it's much easier for them. And this use case is massive in India. Data enrichment is one of the large value adds we have in reducing RTOs, which are basically the time and order does not even get taken, accepted by a customer, it just gets returned to origin, which is the term RTO. And it's the biggest, I think from an economic standpoint and an environmental standpoint, it's the worst thing that can be there because sellers lose money because they pay for logistics, the order doesn't complete, and you have this parcel going up and down the supply chain for no end use or no economic benefit at all, and that's not good for the environment. So Shiprocket Checkout started off as a tool to help, make fulfillment and make the delivery process easier. And obviously, with UPI coming into play, you have that one-click checkout, which is basically seamless.
Okay. And what is the adoption that you have seen of this checkout by Shiprocket? Like, if on
Very new business,
numbers,
actually.
okay, hmm, okay,
Very new business. We just started this a year ago. We're seeing great traction. We have and again one of our co-founders who joined from Picker actually runs this entire business, and he would have the exact numbers around this. But we are seeing a lot of traction around this business. There are a lot of people trying to solve this problem. By the way, we're not the only one. So obviously, there's competition as well. The global precedents are there for companies like Bolt who have tried to solve this for many years. The idea behind us is that it's that data that I told you about, where we're able to deliver more efficiently because of having done billions of deliveries over the last so many years that we have all these data points that are there.
Do you also, for example, allow on the fly a brand to offer cash on delivery versus not offer cash on delivery based on
Absolutely.
historical behavior and stuff like that?
So absolutely. So based on behavior, based on address quality, we're able to tell a seller that this order has what we call an RTO score. This order has a high chance of being returned. So we are alerting you that if you don't want to ship it or you want to call the customer wants to confirm, please do that. A huge value add for our customers. The fact that we're able to predict this for them. And a lot of customers decide not to ship the orders because of this data that we're able to provide them. A large part of it is the address quality because we can tell them that, based like if it says lane number 4, New Delhi, X pin code, it's not going to get delivered. Right.
Right.
So that's we're able to kind of provide that. I can tell you like, an anecdotal experience. My wife made this error a few days ago where she put in our, residential address, which was block so and so, house number so and so, without putting in the locality, right? And she just put in Delhi and the pin code. And today, luckily the order was coming through Shiprocket, so we got an alert immediately saying, and we didn't know it was going to come through Shiprocket. It just happened. My wife wanted to order olives, and we got an alert saying that this order will not be delivered because this locality is missing. And we were able to go enter in that locality, and this is just like 3-4 days ago, and get the order delivered. Before this, that order would have just come to the last mile center in New Delhi. The person would have tried to call my wife. If she would not have picked up the phone, they would have returned it to the seller. If she would have picked up the phone, they would have kind of added the detail, and then they might have had to reroute it because it would have come to a hub which services, let's say, North Delhi and not South Delhi or West Delhi, and that entire circle got that entire whole workflow got eliminated because you were able to online add the locality. So when it came to the Delhi hub, it got sent to the Connect Last Mile hub, and we got it delivered. My wife loved it, by the way. It's the first time she experienced this workflow because she's very particular. She
Okay.
doesn't enter wrong addresses,
Mm,
but it's the first time it happened, and the order got delivered on time.
mm,
So there's a huge value add around the whole data piece that Shiprocket is building.
mm. And I'm assuming when someone is doing a checkout through Shiprocket, you will probably have a rule to not even show cash on delivery if the RTO score is very high, something like that.
Absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely,
mm.
we can do that.
Okay.
We have the ability to do that, and merchants also have the ability. So we don't do anything. The way the platform is built is we leave the choice to the merchant unless the merchant explicitly says Shiprocket decide. You decide which courier, you decide what to do. And there's a
Okay.
large part of our transactions that happen with that algorithm as well. But we give the merchants the ability to, toggle everything on and off. Because a lot of merchants say, no, for example, we have a customer who does a lot of telemarketing sales, right? People calling on the phone and taking orders. And obviously, the address quality is very different there. That the telecaller takes on the phone and he says, no, I don't care. I want every order that comes in should get dispatched out because I believe it will get delivered when the rider will call the customer will tell them generally how to get there. So we give our customers the ability to customize. And at the end of the day, for every for every product, there's a Shiprocket version of it, which is backed purely on data without any human intervention, where we will, like you said, not show cash on delivery. We will automatically reject the order or send notifications to the customer saying, please update your order or we will not ship this out. And if the person does not do it, we cancel the order. And very importantly, we also offer, nudges throughout the transaction to convert cash on delivery orders to prepaid orders as well.
Okay.
Certain merchants can say offer an X% discount if the person does a prepaid order because they want to remove the uncertainty of being able of the delivery, or we identify a high RTO score. We will start that workflow saying, okay, you know what, give an X% discount and be able to convert the merchant to prepaid. So a lot of tools have been built along the journey to help optimize that customer experience.
What is the cost of RTO in a transaction as a, I mean, every wasteful expense eventually is being borne by the customer, right? Like if, for example, that 10% of my orders are RTO, so eventually the customer will end up paying 10% more, just as an example. So I just want to understand at a broad level, what is the cost of RTO?
So it used to be massive when you think about the pricing, right? So when we started solving this problem in 2017, uh, RTO was somewhere around 30 to 40%
Wow.
generally of all cash on delivery orders.
Okay.
So almost one out of every two orders used to come back. Today, the problem, I think, over time, tools have become better, customers have become more sophisticated, but it still ranges about 20% or so in terms of cash on delivery orders. I think when you talk about prepaid orders, the RTO percentage is low single digits
Hmm.
because it's also a lot about intent, right? So with cash on delivery, a lot of times it can be an impulse purchase. So we're able to kind of, help our sellers identify through that RTO score. But even today, about the number varies between 17 to 22%. Depends on product category, depends on the channel through which the order comes. Certain product categories are impulse purchases, higher RTO scores.
Mm.
You have a shampoo and you're going to deliver it on time. Most likely, the person will take the shampoo versus, let's say, a hair accessory, which they may want today, may not want tomorrow. They picked up something along the way. So category, the difference is very stark across categories, especially also on where the order comes from.
Mm. In a way, the prepaid customers are subsidizing the COD customers here, it seems like, because prepaid seems to have much lower RTOs, but it is not. I mean, it won't work if, as a seller, you say if you want cash on delivery, then you have to pay 10% more, right? Like, so they have to overall.
So some people charge, right? So there are
Okay.
some platforms which will charge a COD fee, and
Ah,
I think it's a
okay.
great tool. But
Right.
there's a COD fee that actually has to be paid to the logistics company as well, because they actually physically have to handle that cash and go deposit it into a bank.
Mm.
So it's actually much more inefficient. Well, COD was a large part of e-commerce when it started, but as customer trust has increased, a lot more people are doing prepaid. And what we've seen, with data, there's a stark difference between customers who do prepaid and customers who do COD. There is this segment of customers in India who have gotten used to buying online. And for them, the trust factor is there. And even if they know fraud happens, they have the confidence that they'll be able to recover their money. And a lot of those customers are doing prepaid because the convenience of not having to have someone at home with cash when the person comes to deliver is significant enough, because there's so many parcel deliveries you get today. But there is a segment of customers who don't have that trust online. People who are being scammed by all of these new phishing schemes that come in every day, who prefer cash on delivery. I think post demonetization, you saw that change drastically, right? Prepaid become a
Mm.
larger component of what people are doing. Payment with UPI makes it much easier. You don't need to have a credit card. And the industry is very much evolving towards a prepaid model. COD, by definition, today, at least in the large cities and towns in India, the reason why people do COD is because they're not sure they want the order. So that by itself is a big flag.
Ah, okay. And on the Shiprocket platform, what percentage of orders are COD?
So on the Shiprocket platform today, we still do about 30 to 40% orders. Again,
Okay.
it varies
Mm.
depending on the time of the year. So you will find a lot more COD orders around seasonal festive seasons. A lot more people coming to buy online. So a lot COD percentage increases that. But otherwise, the majority of the orders we have today now have become prepaid. By the way, about 5 years ago, this was exactly the opposite.
Wow.
And so a lot of it has changed. Um, and I think that the platform generally also helps, convert a lot of our orders from COD to prepaid.
Does the checkout by Shiprocket offer customers additional protection to build trust? For example, if they don't like the
So
order or something like that?
So you're talking about a project that is underway right now. So
Okay.
it's in stealth mode. It's something we call Shiprocket Promise, but it's very much in the works to be able to provide that promise of, a
Hassle-free returns.
seamless e-commerce transaction. It's something that we're doing in pilot with select merchants right now. We'll take feedback from the market. At the end of the day, platforms like PayPal have shown that customer trust is something that is, and forget PayPal, even American Express, well before that as a card company, when fraud used to happen, it was one of the best platforms to deal with from a customer experience perspective. I think we've learned and we're trying to offer something along the line, very much bundled into the whole customer experience platform that we're saying. So it's not just about fraud, it's even about seamless returns. So today, much like in Amazon, if someone takes a product and they want to return it and we have data, why can't we refund them in 24 hours? Why do we have to wait for the product to come back to the seller's warehouse and then refund? So we're experimenting with a lot of these solutions to help make D2C commerce more and more trustworthy and seamless.
Amazing, amazing. Okay. Um, can you help me understand who are the players in the logistics market? Because every player claims to do end to end, but then each player has their own niche where they operate in. For example, Shadowfax is more for last mile. Similarly, each player would have some niche that they are strong in. So, as an insider, I'd love to hear from you. What is the niche for each player?
No, so absolutely. I think the large 3PLs or carriers in India are very much people platforms like Delivery, Blue Dart, Ecom Express, Express who deliver throughout India. We obviously have India Post, which has the largest reach of any of these platforms. and India Post came on board with us as a partner a year ago as well. And a
Wow.
lot of direct to commerce transactions are being powered by India Post as well now. So they've been a phenomenal partner for us as commerce expands to smaller towns and cities and villages across India. It's e-commerce penetration is increasing. India Post is a big partner, but I would say with these four platforms in India Post, they actually have the largest national reach. And then you have players like a Shadowfax. You have players who are specializing in certain cities. You have a lot of regional players, which specialize in even states. They guarantee you a much quicker delivery across certain states in India, and they only function in those states because of the simple reason that their rider can take an address and look at it much more efficiently because they have expertise in that area. You have a lot of last mile, same day, next day delivery platforms that we use as well. The biggest thing that they specialize in is picking up from a warehouse around the outskirts of a city and delivering within that city and only that city. You have players like Page
So
who
the
specialize in hyper local deliveries.
last mile would be like a Shadowfax, warehouse to home.
So last mile, people like, yes, absolutely. Platforms like Shadowfax are doing the van deliveries as well as the bike delivery last mile, but it's more on the milk run basis, right? They would pick up from a warehouse and then one by one deliver to a customer. Like a rider would get a list of 30, 40 addresses they have to deliver, and they would deliver one by one. Then you have platforms like Prozo or a Pitch, which actually just do point to point deliveries. They would pick up from the warehouse and go to one customer, and that's it. And then the next time go back to the warehouse, pick up again. Obviously, when you're doing a milk run, you can do same day deliveries. You can't do 1 or 2 hour deliveries. So,
Uh,
depending
okay.
on the platform, depending on the customer, depending on the promise, you have to switch between all the different providers that are there. So, a lot of times, and then there are platforms which specialize even within India on the mid mile. So, are we using a trucking solution to get from Mumbai to Delhi? Are we using air to get from Mumbai to Delhi? Are we using trains now, which we are starting to experiment with for e-commerce as well? We will not today break down the transaction into all of these pieces ourselves as Shiprocket, but there are companies which are breaking this down. For example, is it more efficient for us to use a train for cargo from a Delhi to an Ambala rather than using a truck? There are logistics companies which are innovating around that, and Shiprocket works with them to power them with data to do more efficient demand planning. Because the easiest and in some ways I would say the stupidest way is one parcel gets picked up, gets delivered to a customer. You don't need a lot of intelligence to do that, right? You can have a great customer promise, but it is the most inefficient, most expensive, and most environmentally unfriendly practice to be able to do that. So using data is where we work with a lot of our logistics partners to be able to help them do the demand planning, akin to what people like Amazon have been doing for many, many years.
what is the role of data and AI in the Shiprocket platform? What are the different places where it's playing a major role?
So, big data has been the crux of our existence. It's the reason why we exist as a platform because very quickly we went from access to reliability, transparency, and technology. And big data in terms of being able to do demand planning and being able to work with providers and our logistics partners to deliver stuff more efficiently has always been the core of what we do. It's why we exist as a platform. For example, we work with multiple, logistic partners across India during, peak season, during natural disasters, during uh, situations like COVID that happened. We were able to very quickly use data to be able to identify which which hubs were getting choked for which logistics partner and be able to divert demand to a different logistics partner. Why? Because very simply, in periods of stress, the more demand that you push through to a partner's hub, it exacerbates the situation, makes it worse, takes that much longer for that hub to come back to normal. So using data, and obviously the customer promise gets worse and worse because once a hub chokes for whatever reason that might be there, the promise goes from a 3 day to could be a 10 day to a 15 day to maybe an item getting lost because there's so much chaos that gets created. So we're able to use predictive data analytics. If we see shipments getting, not moving from stage A to stage B at a hub, we are able to predictively identify that there's something wrong here. We're able to speak to the carrier, understand if there is something wrong here, divert demand to a different carrier on the fly. It's something that data helps us do. Demand planning in terms of where to store goods, data helps us do. So big data has been a large part of what we do. Gen AI today is a very important part of our platform, which we talk about e-commerce enablement, which is beyond just the logistics piece. It's about helping our merchants draft on the fly marketing messages using WhatsApp, on the fly communication, offers that they want to pass to their customers. We have a platform called Wixo by Shiprocket, a company that we acquired. So Gen AI is an important part of, an SME being able to create a marketing message in exactly 30 seconds without having to think through or getting it vetted by someone who looks at, marketing offers in their team. They just look at the commercials. They don't really need to figure out the text or the grammar piece of it, helping our merchants get better catalog. For example, using Gen AI, they're able to dramatically improve the quality of the listing by 70 to 80%, which otherwise they would have to go to an agency. It would be prohibitively expensive. You have to pay a minimum 10,000 rupee fee for someone to want to look at your catalog. So, Gen AI is becoming a more important part of the enablement journey for us. But big data has been the core of what we've been doing. It's why we exist.
Okay. Talk to me about beyond logistics and when did that journey start? And I believe a lot of that happened through acquisitions, the move beyond logistics.
So yes, some of that did, but the move beyond logistics started very early for us in 2019 itself, because as entrepreneurs, we very clearly reflect every year on what problem we're solving, and the problem in 2012 was very acute and very clear. 2017, access, pricing, transparency was still a very big problem, but as the carriers started to evolve as well, I think come 2019-20, just before COVID, we realized that a lot of these problems were getting solved, a lot of them directly by the carriers. So we needed to disrupt ourselves and innovate beyond, to help improve the customer experience. So we started solutions, for example, to get cash on delivery payments quicker to our customers, because working capital was a very big problem that they were solving. To being able to use data to help them get access to financing from third parties. So we started working around this fintech play very early on, but a lot of it was just working with partners and helping our customers get better access to financing. It was not really doing anything here ourselves. It was using data. It was being able to help our customers, on the value added services around CRM. So around WhatsApp communication, around customer email communication, creating branded checkout pages where they could cross sell products. So around 2019-20, a lot of this innovation started organically. 2020, COVID hit, and the entire supply chains around the world went for a toss. So we started doubling down back on the logistics piece and using big data to be able to build more efficient supply chains. And I think 2021-22, as the effects of COVID, started to go away, supply chains started to get more normal. We started focusing again on a lot of the value added services like we used to call in our business. And I think that's where we made a conscious shift that if we wanted to build and build quickly, we would look at inorganic acquisitions as well as part of our journey rather than wanting to build everything ourselves, because that would just delay the stack that we wanted to build. It would take us 5 years, which we could potentially do in 2 years. And we went along the journey of getting Glaucus on board, which was one of the companies we acquired and merged very quickly to build our fulfillment solution. We bought Wixo to build our CRM solution, our WhatsApp communication, Omni to build the omni-channel platform that we're building to bring online and offline retail together. And I think that continues to be a very strong part of what we do. But for us, it's very much, inorganic acquisition is not done for us for revenue or, acquiring customers. It's very much that it has to become a part of the stack that we want to build and has to be very much a part of the stack that we want to offer, which integrates into Shiprocket. It's not, we don't want to acquire a company and then let it run independently forever, catering to a different customer base. The vision has to be very much common. The company might run independently from Shiprocket, but the customer pool and the tech stack has to become common at a certain point.
Okay, understood. I'm going to zoom in on some of the things that you said. Let's start with the fintech play. How did you enable cash on delivery to become more effective for the sellers? Like you said, you enabled them to get access to that cash faster. How was that done?
So the simple thing about cash on delivery is that once the cash is collected for the customer, the counterparty risk in this entire transaction is very low because the cash is already with the carrier, with the courier company. So outside of the exception of a courier company, going bankrupt, the certainty to being able to get that money back to the seller is a lot higher. So we worked a lot with our courier companies who used to, let's say, do remittances once every week when we started, to twice a week, to thrice a week. And that helped us being able to get this money quicker to customers.
Okay.
We were able to partner with NBFCs to be able to, advance loans for 3-4 days for sellers to be able to get the money earlier at a very cheap cost, because there was this secured capital at the back end that they were going to get anyways. So it was about using data to be, initially it was about making the money chain quicker and more efficient. And beyond that, it was then partnering with people to be able to get this money out to customers a lot quicker.
Okay. Okay. And was this monetized, the fintech
Absolutely.
lending?
So the second part of it had to be monetized, obviously,
Mm.
because there is someone who is extending the money and not actually receiving the money at that point. So it was monetized. But the first part of it, which was weekly remittances to merchants instead of bi-monthly remittances every 15 days, that is something that just happened a lot quicker and more efficient, and it's something that we powered, and that's the innovation that we brought to the table. The moment if you want, the moment an order is delivered, if the merchant wants the money before even the carrier has gotten it, there obviously then there's someone who has to extend that capital out, and there's a cost to finance.
Mm. And Shiprocket also earns from this when it's financed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
Shiprocket,
Right.
so like the whole value added services that we provide is an important revenue stream for us to be able to kind of build these services back onto the platform.
Okay, understood. So I guess 21 is when you had the big funding round, $185 million, I believe, towards the end of 21,
Yes. Yes.
and
So 20 end of
that was for
21 is when we got some of
acquisitions.
the big funds.
Okay.
Yes, it was primarily for acquisitions, and it was one big acquisition we'd done. We had bought out one of our competitors, Picker. We loved the team there. They had built a very complementary business to us. We were focusing more on SMEs. They were focusing on some of the larger customers. And as we met the founders. We've been talking to them for some time. It just made sense because we were all building the same stack eventually, and we were just replicating in two different places. So idea was to kind of bring it together under one roof and build quicker.
And does Picker exist as a separate brand today, or is it now just single Shiprocket brand, or like?
It's all Shiprocket. So we fully merged Picker into Shiprocket in
Okay.
2023,
Okay.
and the founders are very much part of the Shiprocket team. And so, for example, Gaurav, who was one of the founders of Picker, now runs the checkout business, which is what we call Faster, right? So because we were building that checkout business within Shiprocket, they were building it within Picker. It was called Faster. They were at a much more advanced stage of that evolution, so we kind of just brought it together, and he runs that entire business for us. The other co-founders of Picker are building out some of the newer innovations within the supply chain. Part of our B2B business is run by Ankit, who's one of the founders there, but it's all within the Shiprocket gamut now. So Picker as a company has been fully merged.
Okay, understood. And then there were a couple of other acquisitions which you did. So, like Vixo, talk to me about why you acquired Vixo. What was the synergies you saw there?
So with Vixo, it was very simple. We believe that our customers, as D2C evolves in India, our customers need to start focusing more on, and when I say our customers, it's the seller base, on repeat transactions. New customer acquisition cannot be the model on which you build a business forever, right? And unfortunately, a lot of our sellers were not focusing as much on the repeat side of it. They were doing it, but they were doing it in a very ad hoc fashion. So Vixo as a customer data platform, as a CDP, was brought in to help our customers do it in an automated, easy to use way. It was also one of our first plays into using Gen AI to help customer communication, to help marketing automation. And it was part of our stack that we, very frankly, we kept on thinking about wanting to do this internally, but as part of the product journey, when you have a finite amount of resources and you want to you allocate them to problems that are really solving the core of what you're doing. This is a problem we really wanted to solve, and we kept on thinking. It kept on getting delayed on our roadmap. So one of the things was, we came across the team, we loved the product that had been built, and we kind of integrated it into our platform. They were probably on day one of the journey, we were on day zero. So it made sense to kind of bring them here, use the learnings that were there, and build it now within the Shiprocket platform as well.
And Vixo is also now absorbed. It is not a separate brand anymore. It's part of.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fully part of Shiprocket. They ran separately for a few years. Again, the decision that we have, or the objective that we have, is very clearly to make it a part of Shiprocket, right? We don't want to run 3, 4 different companies. But when we decide to do what we decide to do, kind of gets determined by the product journey, by the entrepreneurial journey that the founder has. With Picker and Locus, because they were very core parts of our stack, they were integrated in earlier. Vixo as a platform was integrated in later. And we actually also found through our journey that was a large part of the platform that we wanted to rebuild and rebuild more closely with Shiprocket. So a large part of it, so the Vixo team sits out of our central office. The Vixo The person leading the Vixo platform now within Shiprocket sits out of there. And it's a journey that we realized we wanted to build in more closely into Shiprocket. But that's a realization that happened probably a year and a half after the acquisition. It was not the mindset at the time of the acquisition.
And Wixo would compete with, say, a Clever Tap, or these kind of platforms.
Absolutely, like a Clavio, like a Mo Engage. Vixo is a CDP which is built purely for e-commerce. Unlike some of these other platforms which cater to use cases across industries, Vixo very much is an e-commerce use case. Again, because of the Shiprocket platform and the focus that we have on e-commerce.
Okay, understood. And what about Glaucus? Yes.
Yes, so Glaucus was one of our first acquisitions actually. Nitin and Vivek, who were the founders there, joined us very early in our journey. They were running, a fulfillment business called Glaucus, catering to both e-commerce as well as offline commerce. And this was something that, to power same day, next day delivery, which is where the world is evolving. We were very clear we wanted to build this out. And here it was not so much about, tech or product. It was more about expertise and domain, because fulfillment is a very different, a logistics operation is very different from running a technology company. And we didn't have that domain there. So we loved the founders, we brought them on board. They had been running this more from a domain perspective for a few years. And there was a meeting of the minds. And there the integration was immediately at the time of acquisition. Right? We brought them in, and Shiprocket fulfillment as a business was built on the back of Glaucus.
Okay, and fulfillment is essentially warehousing plus logistics. Like the additional
Yes, it's
thing
the
in fulfillment is warehousing.
So it's the warehousing, the WMS, as well as the logistics. So a lot of the warehouses that we work with, for example, they're deep storage warehouses. A lot of them are geared for e-commerce. So what we do is we take space within these larger warehouses and we're able to optimize them for e-commerce. So from the time an order comes, the tech that operates in the warehouse is able to ship it out or keep it ready for shipping within 2 to 3 hours of the order coming. Traditional warehouses would probably have it ready for dispatch next day. So that's really the innovation that we brought in with Shiprocket Fulfillment, is we're able to shave a day off the supply chain by doing this very, very quick, at least keeping the shipment ready for collection. The collection might take 4 to 6 hours to happen, but the shipment is ready and it can be shipped out.
Okay, understood. Okay, what about Omni?
So Omni was a very interesting, play for us. Omni-channel is something we've been thinking about for a very, very long time, about how we take some of these large offline brands and make them, one, easier to shop online, and number two, inventory stockouts is a huge issue for a lot of large retailers. And how can we, given that there's this pool of inventory that exists across stores for the large retailers across India, why are they not able to take an e-commerce order and ship it from the closest store when it is available? Why does it have to go to a warehouse? For example, I could order from a shoe retailer in Delhi. That inventory could be available at a store less than 2 kilometers away from my house, but still the dispatch might happen from a warehouse in Bhiwandi in Maharashtra, because that's where the e-commerce operations run out of. Incredibly inefficient, incredibly costly, and it creates conflicts in your supply chain also, because the e-commerce is being powered centrally by the company out of a warehouse, but you may have a franchise in Delhi who can actually fulfill that order. You should be part of their customer base, but you're eventually going through uh, a head office or a centralized operation there. So it's something that we see this as a huge problem even today in e-commerce and omni-commerce, like omni-channel commerce, like we like to call it, because even as some of the D2C brands go bigger, they go offline, they will start facing this channel. And unlike some of the older established players, they have the ability to create their supply chain in a more efficient manner. So we actually, we've been talking about partnering with Omni for a very long time. It was a company which was owned by Arvind Retail earlier. Arvind, the promoters behind Arvind Mills, one of the largest, fashion retailer and offline retailers in India. And we've been speaking to them for some time to partner with them. And I think through that journey, there's just a meeting of the minds happened that maybe this company has a better home in Shiprocket than there. And we met the founder, we met the team. Kulin Lalbhai, who was kind of from the Arvind family, who was running this operation, was a big supporter, believed in our vision, and we did that transition that happened where, obviously to a large extent, it was an equity swap and some cash out for investors. That actually still operates as a separate entity out of Bangalore. Again, it's been a huge value add for us. It's a team that brings a skill set of working with large brands that we've never done before in Shiprocket. And we truly believe that, we're going to benefit from this investment in the years to come. as offline and online starts to converge in a more meaningful manner.
Okay, understood. Help me understand the what does the revenue for Shiprocket look like? Do you, I mean, is it like the GMV model where the total cost of logistics is on your books, or is it only the margin, your take rate in that which is on your books, or like how does that happen?
So there's no GMV that's on our books, right? But what's on our books is the entire freight cost, right? The entire money that is spent on fulfillment, on logistics, that's something that we take from the merchant and we in turn pay to our suppliers. So our revenue
Okay.
number is the number that, is the entire supply chain cost almost of the transaction. And obviously
Okay.
a large part of it is paid forward to our partners, which are the courier companies and the 3PL logistics companies.
And what is your typical take rate? What percentage do
So
you?
it So the take rate, again, it varies by size of customer, it varies by the complexity of the transaction, but it can go anywhere from 10 to 12% to 25 to 30%. Again, depending on if a customer is working with me along multiple value added services that I'm providing, right? Then I can get a larger share of wallet there versus, if it's a large customer working with me only on the supply chain, then you're talking about high single digits, low double digits, which is just powering the supply chain and the technology part of it.
Okay, so the value-added services would be like the checkout service and fulfilled by Shiprocket. These two. What else is? Or
RTO reduction, early
okay,
COD,
okay,
CRM communication. So, for us, when we talk about, so we don't really monetize as part of the logistics cost. For us, it's part of the entire e-commerce enablement stack that's there. So a customer works with me along more services. I actually may end up making no money on the logistics, right? Because I'm able to add so much value to them on the other parts of the technology stack, the logistics might even be a very small fraction of the revenue that I earn from that customer. The idea is that at the end of, for example, when you think about Amazon FBA, you pay an X% of GMV to Amazon to be able to execute it end to end for you where you don't have to worry about it. That's the holy grail for us, right? At the end of the day. And the fact that we're able to do it in such a disorganized and disintermediated space is the middleware component that we have with all the partners here. At the end of the day, it's much easier for our customers to be able to model their unit economics because they say, okay, you know what, Shiprocket is going to take care of this. This is the fulfillment delivery percentage I have. This is my cost of goods sold. This is how much money I'm going to take home at the end of the day, and I want to leave it to Shiprocket. So a lot of our customers, especially on the smaller and mid-sized SMEs, work with us on that model. The larger SMEs or some of the larger brands, they obviously want to be able to manage this more internally because they have large teams to do it. They work on a supply chain cost. Maybe we will buy this solution, maybe we will not. But as a stack, we offer everything, but we don't compel a customer that you have to buy everything from us. The big thing, we call ourselves, it's a very fanciful word, but we love it. We call ourselves the operating system for e-commerce. And within that
wow.
operating system, we're very clear that we want to give choice to our merchants. It's not a, we don't want to force products down someone's throat because that's not how this works. If a merchant sees value in a product, they will do it. For example, if a merchant is working very much on a prepaid model, on a model which is not impulse consumer buying, why should they buy the RTO reduction tool? They just don't need it, right? If they have a 99% delivery rate. So we allow our merchants to figure out what they believe is the biggest value we add to the ecosystem. While, for example, for me, it would make more money to sell that RTO reduction tool to a merchant with high prepaid because uh, they'll have orders that will get delivered, right? They'll show a high amount of success. But maybe for the merchant, it doesn't make sense to pay for an RTO reduction tool to do an RTO score of 99% of the orders, which are anyways getting delivered.
Hmm. The RTO reduction tool is it like a fixed subscription, or is it like the take rate increases?
So take rate increases. So we don't work on a subscription model. We're not really a SaaS company. We started out that way, but very quickly we realized in the SME space in India, people want to pay for success. They don't want a subscription model. And we pivoted very early on. CartRocket was our SaaS company. Shiprocket pretty much from the day it started, while there was a SaaS component, the majority of the revenue was always pay for success.
Ah, interesting. So even the customer communication platform Wixo, that is also like a take rate,
Yeah,
or
it's going to be
that
a
must
take
be
rate. It's going to be a take rate. It's going to be a take
okay.
rate. The only flat fee that you charge there is on the communication costs, right? Which are billed separately, the SMS, WhatsApp, etc. But the platform itself very much is a It's a transaction based. So the more you do, the more we make, but the less percentage you pay us.
Okay, so based on how much repeat orders it generates, there will be some percentage of the repeat orders that will.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Also, the
okay,
amount of orders that we are able to generate using the platform, you only pay us a percentage of the orders we generate, not obviously on all the orders that you are generating. And we feel with the SME community, this model works because they make money, we make money. Alignment is very, very important in this industry. For example, if actually, if you think of it, on an RTO shipment, Shiprocket will make more money because he will have a take rate on the outbound shipment and the take rate on the inbound shipment, but the seller is worse off. So at some point, someone asked us, why are you creating this RTO reduction platform that you have? Because you make so much money, because you'll make money on two legs of the shipment. And our answer is that's just not good for the seller. At the end of the day, short term, yes, maybe I will make more money either way. So very quickly, we reduced our fees on the RTO side, saying that no, you have not been successful. Shipments coming back. We don't want to make money off this. We will help build this platform where we will align with your success, not with making money whether you succeed or you don't succeed. So, our thinking has been very much that as sellers should become bigger with us on the platform. It is not about how much money we can make of one transaction.
amazing, amazing. How much of your revenue now comes from SMBs versus enterprise customers?
So about 70% of our revenue very much is SMBs. That was last financial year, and that number is only increasing as we're doubling down. So while a lot of the headlines are around the large customers, but a lot of the work we do is we work with 100,000 active merchants every month, Akshay, for the transactions that we do. Uh, to be able to work, if you were working with maybe 25, 30 large customers, we would be able to do that volume as well. So a large part of it is SMB focused. That said, a lot of our customers start with us as SMBs and become big brands. The biggest example is a Mama's, which recently went for an IPO, right? But people who work within that range of 500 to 20, 15, 20,000 orders a month are a large part of our business.
I want to understand. You said 100,000 merchants. How does your sales process work? What are some of the best practices around acquiring SMBs? Because that's like a challenge every made in India, made for India kind of startup in the B2B space is struggling with, like how to acquire customers at scale. So, how do you do that?
So I think actually one of the big things that we do is we always realized very quickly that we don't want to go to a feet on street model. We want to go to a digital model, an inside sales model. Simple reason behind it being that there was a conscious decision we had to take early on. Are we targeting customers who are going offline to online, which was the case with Cartrocket, which was the case with the Craftly, or we want to target customers who are already online. And we were very clear with Shiprocket, we wanted to go after the digitally enabled customers because going to a local Kirana store, teaching them how to do business online, then helping them ship online was a journey. We wanted them to make that leap of faith of going online before, because there's no point selling them a Shiprocket account if they don't have any online orders. And that kind of defined the customer acquisition process for us, which is that if you're not on Google, you're not on Facebook, you're not on WhatsApp, you are probably not digitally enabled. So we will not target you through our digital marketing, right? You hear of Shiprocket and you want to use Shiprocket, you're more than welcome to onboard with us organically. But from an outbound marketing perspective, you have to be digitally enabled. And these were some of the platforms they used as proxies for someone who was digitally enabled. As we grew bigger, for example, one of the things that we started using is people who did not who had a domain name. For example, your email address was xyz at brand.com rather than at Gmail. Started using that as a proxy as well. For example, for LinkedIn marketing, it was much easier to be able to do that. People who had titles, certain titles on LinkedIn, where you were the logistics or the supply chain in charge of a company. But digital enablement has always been a very important part of what we did. Offline sales, feet on street sales is not something that we focus on as a company because we truly believe that there are enough platforms that are trying to make you go online, whether it's a Facebook and Amazon or WhatsApp. But once you make that leap of faith, Shiprocket is the platform that's going to help you become more successful when you talk about digital commerce.
And typically, does every sale happen through like a human touch, like a person on a call with the customer, or is it
Not at
pure
all.
self-service sales
Not
also?
at all. So early days, most of our sales, and I'm not even talking about early days other than 2017. I'm talking about till 2021, 22. Majority of our sales were self onboarding. People The platform is
Wow.
that easy. You can do your upload your KYC. You can be good to go. You can recharge your wallet online. And even today, in terms of number of sales, the majority of them happen self-onboarded. In terms of the value, obviously some of the larger customers add more money. So then obviously in terms of value, some of the sales are not majority self-onboarding. But if you talk about purely number of customers, majority of it is all self-onboarding. We do have a large inside sales team, which basically calls customers if they get stuck anywhere on the process. But given the platform is pretty seamless, pretty simple, most people are able to go online themselves.
Okay, interesting, interesting. And how much of your revenue is from cross border? Is that a big
So
piece of
cross-border
it?
is a new part. It is. It is a significant piece of the business today. It's something that I run personally, which is why, when you ask me about the domestic business, I'm giving you more generic answers a little bit in terms of numbers. I know in terms of strategy and how we operate, obviously, I'm very much involved in it, but I moved out of the domestic business in 2022 to run what we call Shiprocket X, which is my t-shirt here, which is our cross-border platform. And we started it in 2022, scaling very rapidly. It's sub 10% of our business right now, between 5 to 10%, but we expect it to be almost 15 to 20% of our business this financial year, which is 24-25. So it's growing very, very rapidly and very much powered by the fact that more and more Indian brands, Indian SMEs are wanting to sell globally. The product is there, in terms of the packaging, the quality of the product today. There is a huge Indian diaspora overseas which buys these products, and now there's an increasing population of international customers as well. When I say international, I mean people of non-Indian diaspora, non-Indian descent who want to buy some of these products. So we're scratching the surface. This is probably going to be a very large part of Indian commerce is going to be exports.
Uh, what is the profile of the cross border customer? Is it somebody who is selling through a marketplace in the US, or is it somebody who's built his own D2C website and is selling through that in the US?
So it's on both. It's on either ends of that spectrum, and so there are large brands who have been in cross-border exports for many years who have very successful D2C businesses, right? A lot of these brands tend to be, for example, around ethnic wear. People have built these massive sari brands, these suit or kurti brands that cater to the Indian diaspora overseas, and a large part of what they do is D2C. But the majority of the Indian SMEs that we see and the people that we deal with at Shiprocket are actually people selling on international marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and Walmart. And they're generating their orders there because obviously doing D2C cross border is prohibitively expensive when you think about acquiring marketing costs, right? Customer
Yes.
acquisition costs. So the first stage, and we always recommend this to sellers who approach us for help along the cross border enablement journey, is that marketplace selling should always be your first port of call. Understand product market fit for your products, understand customer preferences, then do D2C, and then offline, which is the holy grail for most people, right? Wanting to be on offline shelves. So that's kind of the customer journey that kind of we help facilitate at Shiprocket. But a large part of the customers we deal with are marketplace customers, traditionally selling on platforms like eBay, Etsy, Walmart, and Amazon.
Do you also help them in getting themselves listed? Like, there are these e-commerce agencies which help a brand, they manage the listings and the catalog, etc., end to end. Is that something which you also do, or you're only doing logistics?
So we don't do it ourselves, but we have a product called LaunchX, right? So Shiprocket X is a cross-border platform. Within that, we have an end-to-end e-commerce enablement product called LaunchX, and in that, an entrepreneur can basically come to us and say, "I want you to take my brand live." So I'll replay. I've done a lot of these conversations in the last 12 months, and it's funny. So we meet a lot of entrepreneurs who want to do cross-border, and they say, "We want Shiprocket to help us take our brand global." And the first thing I say is, okay, global is a very big word. Which country do you want to go to? And a lot of entrepreneurs haven't even really, they'll have 4 or 5 countries they want to launch in. They want to do US, they want to do UK, they want to do Dubai, they want to do GCC. And we're like, okay, going global, it sounds great, but you first have to pick one market because you're talking about a market as complex as your domestic business if you're already an entrepreneur here. So we have a product called LaunchX which actually works with our customers to be able to help work with them from the strategy to the execution. The listing and the enablement part, which you're talking about, listing on marketplaces, we don't do it ourselves. We have an ecosystem of partners that we've established, much like on the domestic side. We work with them Again, there's some partners for different geographies, there's specialists also that we partner with. And we let the brand choose, if they want to do it themselves, they want to do it through a partner that we have on the platform or a separate partner. They have the ability to choose, but we can help them orchestrate this entire global launch. And these partners help list them on international marketplaces. If they need a seller on record service, they provide that for them. They do the compliance, they do the payment recon. ShipRocket itself will do the entire end-to-end supply chain. So that's what we focus on. But we have this product where you can choose the partner you want, or you can use one of our empaneled partners and go global. And that product is actually getting a lot of traction. Again, ShipRocket X as a platform is only 18 to 20 months old, so we're still in our early days. But going forward, we do see this network of partners becoming a very important part with SMEs wanting to go global.
And I'm assuming LaunchX would be a more concierge kind of a service rather than a pure self-service thing.
So LaunchX is very much so. The beauty of LaunchX is the supply chain of the platform is pretty much end-to-end technology, right? And for the partners ecosystem that we have, we don't try to be that concierge. By the way, we want the brand to have a direct relationship with the partner. Even the brand gets a direct contract with the partner. One of the things that we wanted very early on is we didn't want to create asymmetry of information in the ecosystem. A lot of people trying to solve this problem today are trying to make profits because of asymmetry of information, or blocking information. Shiprocket as a platform has all been about democratization. It has been that people should work with us because they see value in what we do, not because they have no other option, right? And so one of the things we did is we actually didn't want to create that concierge model. We very much so within this entire ecosystem. Let's say you come to LaunchX, you will have, for example, Go Local is a brand which is helping doing this. Naveen Mystery is a very close friend and an advisor at Shiprocket X, who's the founder of this brand. We work with them for the listing part of the journey. We work with them even for the payment part of the journey. There's a separate partner we have for the compliance if the brand needs it, but we will connect the brand with all the different parts of this ecosystem. In an ideal scenario, the brand will not need to speak to any of these partners once the listing goes live. They only need to speak to ShipRocket because the supply chain is the only moving part in the business. But if they need to, they have that direct relationship, they have that direct contract, direct account, that they don't have to be dependent on us to get answers. That's something that, as a design choice, we implemented very early on. Whereas a lot of the people that we work with in the ecosystem today are trying to create that, single window solution, that concierge service. While I think, yes, there's a huge value add for that. I think long term, if a brand becomes successful, they want to break out of that concierge service because they want to optimize parts of the workflow themselves. And then you create a conflict of interest. So, day zero, we wanted to remove the conflict of interest. You want us to help you do it, we will help you do it, but you have the ability to do it yourself.
In the long term, I somehow feel that the transparency might work against you, because see, you and a delivery could both compete for the same business from an SMB who wants to ship, and wouldn't you be better off if you're telling the SMB, we'll handle your shipment, don't worry about it, in terms of who is actually doing it, because both you and delivery would want to get that same customer. Delivery would get a better margin if they acquire the customer directly versus going through Shiprocket. That conflict does seem to be there.
But actually, that conflict's been there throughout our existence, if you really think of it, right? At the end of the day, delivery is an incredibly tech-forward platform that's there. The fact that ShipRocket as a platform still exists and is thriving is because there's a lot more beyond just moving the parcel from A to B, right? Today, ShipRocket is thinking about the e-commerce journey of the customer. Delivery is thinking about delivering parcel A to parcel B because they're a logistics company and they are the best at what they do in terms of optimizing the logistics infrastructure. We are there to help optimize the customer experience. And as if during that journey, a customer says, you know what, I don't want to pay you for the supply chain anymore because I believe I can do it. By introducing that natural break in that journey, they are now saying that you do Y, let this person do X. When things work, great. When things don't work, for example, for whatever reason, if there's a hub that gets choked for delivery, now they want to use a different provider. They are not going to get that same rate from 5 providers that we are able to provide them, right? So there's a reason why Shiprocket exists as a platform. And at the end of the day, for the large customers who are able to do this, absolutely, their first port of call will be delivery. Please do this for us. Shiprocket, please make sure you work parallelly with the delivery. And for large customers, we will even take them to delivery directly if we believe they have a better rate. And we can provide the tech backbone and the tech infrastructure. Eventually, as businesses evolve, as industries evolve, things get disintermediated. It's what we did. We disrupted the logistics supply chain when we started. Today, what we built also will get disrupted. And we're better off disrupting ourselves and waiting for someone to come and disrupt us, whether it be a delivery or whether it be someone solving one part of the supply chain, or the enablement part of the supply chain, the payments part of the supply chain, right? So having the best people in terms of this partner ecosystem at doing what people do is far better than us long term, and we will survive as that enablement engine. And that's what we're doing. And we have, again, been as founders, if a customer feels stuck with Shiprocket, that is the worst feeling we have in our morning. If a customer tells us, I have no other option, I have to work with you. While some
Yeah.
people might be really happy, but an unhappy customer, that person will replace you the day they get that option and someone disrupts you, right? We want people to use us because they want to use us, not because they have no other option.
So I understand the value proposition for a customer. There are a lot of things which you are providing them to make e-commerce happen. What is the value add for a logistics provider? Why would they want to keep working with you and give up some of their commission, like some of their earning?
I think the simple thing is that managing SMBs in India is hard, right? No one's been able to do it. I think India Mart is one of the few platforms that's been able to do it, and scale and huge, respect to the founders there, Dinesh and Brijesh Agarwal. They've been able to build something that's truly unique. But there are not a lot of platforms that have been able to effectively monetize and manage SMBs in India. And Shiprocket probably is one of the few platforms that's being able to do that. So for them, the cost of customer servicing, the cost of acquisition, the cost of customer management is something that just goes out of the window because we're able to do it for them. And they're able to tap into a deeper customer base. Now, if you think about an account manager at a large carrier, they will want to focus on their top 10 accounts, or they will want to focus on their bottom 90 accounts. Their bottom 90 accounts are the top 10 accounts at Shiprocket. So there's a very big difference. It's the same way when you think about a bank, right? Very early on, when I came back to India, I used to use this analogy with Sahil, Gautam, and Vishesh. Bank has different levels and tiers that they have. They have private banking, they have priority banking, they have advantage banking, they have then consumer banking, right? And the reason is because whoever, as you evolve in your journey, at each stage of that journey, when you go from a 1 lakh deposit to a 5 lakh deposit, you want to be made to feel special, that you are more important than when you had that 1 lakh deposit, now that you have a 5 lakh deposit. So you get into this advantage banking. Then from 5 lakhs, when you go to a 20 lakhs deposit, I'm talking about 2016, 17, when I come back to India, this is how the structure used to be. You suddenly came into priority banking. What it meant was that, in advantage banking, you used to get a relationship manager on call. Now you went to priority banking, you had a relationship manager who used to call you. uh, In the first case, it was inward, right? When you had a problem, you called the person. Now someone used to call you every month, call you for coffee to the branch, sell other products to you because you had reached that stage. And then when you went to private banking, it was like that white glove service, people coming in, introducing you to all of these products. So at each stage of that journey, at, at when you think about banking today, you could go get a loan from a specialist loan provider. You could go buy a mutual fund from a specialist mutual fund distributor, and you could go buy insurance from someone there. But at some level of the journey, one person is buying something from everybody. And trust me, it's not the most efficient way to buy. It is the easiest and most convenient way to buy. And each of those industries over time has been disrupted, right? Mutual funds today can access people across the length and breadth of the country. It's not like, oh, you have to go to a bank to get access to a mutual fund anymore. But still, bad people buy mutual funds from banks, right? Because there's a single point of service that's there, right? A lot of people decide to buy mutual funds directly from wealth managers because they believe the advisory there is more important. So people have choice. The same way customers and SMBs in India have choice today. Maybe they did not have choice 10 years ago. They will have more choices 5 years from now. Maybe there will be an SMS company that will just come and say, we want to just sell you SMSs. The same way, by the way, guest stories played out in the US. US SMBs will go to providers for one specific reason. They will not just go to a CDP saying do everything. They will go to a company like Lavio and say, you power my SMSs. They will go to somebody for email marketing, like maybe a web engage or a Mo engage. They will go to somebody else for WhatsApp marketing. right? And they're willing to pay SaaS. They're willing to pay for each of these subscriptions. Within in India, the market will also evolve there, right? And you better be the best at what you do. The one-stop shop is great in the early days, but as businesses scale, they get more successful. People want the best of each and every category. And within the Shiprocket ecosystem, that's what we endeavor to provide you. It is not a one-stop shop which does everything mediocrely well. It is a one-stop shop that has partners that do everything extremely well.
Amazing. How big is the Shiprocket team today, headcount wise?
Oh wow! So I think with all the acquisitions we have, you would be about 1,300 people between Delhi and
Wow.
Bangalore.
And what is the ARR or this year's revenue, if you are at liberty to
So
share?
I can tell you what we've declared, which is $150 million was our ARR last year.
And I'm sure this, like, it will be 1.5 or 2x of that for current year, something
Well,
like that.
hopefully, I think a lot of the big thing that will change is that the platform is obviously gone towards a lot more in terms of health. The growth is robust, but at the same time, I think what's changed in the last 1 year is our focus on unit economics. I think
Profitability.
that's where you will see the biggest changes in terms of our margins, in terms of our customer profiles. A lot of that has especially changed, and a lot of the acquisitions have obviously helped in that because we've been able to bring in this pool of talent that has helped kind of build each part of the business more efficiently.
What's the exit roadmap for investors?
Well, the goal is always to go towards an IPO. So we've been on this journey to prepare for an IPO for some time now. We haven't really put in a timeline. It's something that we believe is a little bit premature and early to do right now because the way the platform is evolving, we have so many growth businesses right now that as some of these growth businesses start becoming more mature in the way Shiprocket as a platform has, I think that's going to be the inflection point. For example, Shiprocket X, for example, checkout product is the point at which we will start thinking about an IPO. But very much the planning is there. Last year was the first year we declared our financial results proactively in the public domain. You didn't have no stealth or investigative journalists had to go out,
Yeah. Okay.
pull our filings from, MCA to be able to figure out what the numbers were. We proactively did it, much like a public company would do in an earnings call. So it's something that we are getting into that rhythm very early on. We're preparing in terms of corporate governance, transparency, everything, but we're not putting a timeline around it because it has to be the right time for the business. No one gets to time the markets. We don't want to time the markets. The day the business is ready is the day we'll kind of put our neck out there and say we want to do this. We do believe though, as a platform, as a business, this business would be more suited to an IPO long term.
Amazing.